Our next speaker, Langer, and we have him in the studio already. Hey, Langer.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
So first question before we start, where are you located right now?
I'm currently in Tokyo.
Well, it's great to know. How long ago it was the last time you've been traveling?
I would say it's probably like 6 months ago. So it's been, my last conference was in January. I was traveling a bit then and then had to head back to Tokyo as everything started lockdown. So it's been some time ago.
Great. So we're all waiting for international traveling to renew, and also we're expecting you to start your presentation about some successful strategies for the games, right?
Yeah. So
Great.
thank you so much. I'll take it over from here. Hi, everyone, and nice to be on this webinar with all of you. It is evening here in Tokyo. It's the last presentation of the day for me, so I'm looking forward to giving this presentation. I'd like to spend some time today to share and talk a little bit about what we're doing at Mixi. And this presentation today is pretty comprehensive. It will cover a little bit about the success story of our title called Monster Strike, and I think fundamentally, what are some learnings that we've had, and I think would be good takeaways for developers and publishers alike. And looking forward to perhaps see if there are any questions at the end of the presentation. So today's topic is entitled Entertainment and Beyond, and we're going to talk about the key strategies for mobile game titles, and I think more importantly, using our game as a case study. So I'd like to talk about, very quickly the Mixi Group and who we are and what we stand for. So the Mixi Group is based in Japan. So we are a Japanese venture company with 5 core businesses. We've streamlined into 3 core businesses. We started out as the social network of Japan with our Mixi social networking service, I would say about 17 years ago. So we've been around for quite some time. We are also a publicly listed company on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Our key revenues primarily come from digital entertainment. That's our mobile game revenues. And we also do sports as well as live experiences. So sports mean traditional sports, such as soccer, baseball. We do own teams as well as do active sponsorship in multiple categories of sports. Last category is live experiences, which is our business with regards to brick and mortar stores, or perhaps our e-commerce business and our events business. And this is all part of the entire ecosystem, which I'll share a little bit later. So case study number 1 is Monster Strike, our title. And to briefly share a little bit on Monster Strike, I do know the majority of our participants in today's webinar is not in Japan or perhaps in greater China, because our product is only available right now in Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau. So for those of you who have had the opportunity to try out Monster Strike, some time back, this application was available, I think 3 years ago in the US App Store and various English-speaking markets, but you have kind of removed it from the store due to opportunity costs. But our Japan business, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau business is doing very well with this title. But a little bit about this title, for those of you who are not familiar, the key strategic concept for this game is fundamentally to help bring up to 4 people together in real time and to play together. And this is obviously before the Corona period. When this game was released 7 years ago, we fundamentally had one question to answer, which was how exactly do we, have a game that exists on your mobile phone that can, serve as a communication tool to bring people together. Right? And we thought of Monster Strike. So a little bit about Monster Strike's success. We have more than 53 million downloads. This data was, I believe, last year. So I believe the data right now is much higher. But we've been very, very successful in Japan. The majority of our users come from Japan. And our multiplayer sessions, when we track like people playing together, we have more than 18 billion multiplayer sessions, which On average, is about 10 million multiplayer games played daily. So that's quite an impressive number. And for us, one of the key KPIs that we track instead of DAU is actually multiplayer sessions, right? How many people do you play together with friends? And I think that's the key metric that we use to benchmark. Our retention rate as well, based on this strategic concept, has been phenomenal. We have up to 30% of our users playing the game for 3 years or more, right? And I think that really speaks to how when we focus on this idea of communication and focusing on social with regards to our core use, with regards to bringing your friends into the game, it actually pays dividends at the end of the day, right? And with the revenues, we're very fortunate to have great revenues as well. So if you just do a quick search online, we've been very successful with this title. It's a top grossing mobile game worldwide. Very fortunate for that. And one of the key learnings that I guess would be very useful to kind of share in this part, and when it comes to creating new products or perhaps evolving your existing product, is to ask yourself, who is your target user, right? And instead of asking very basic questions on user demographics, like we're talking about 18 to perhaps 35, right? Males who enjoy these kind of contents. Instead of just looking at the basic demographics, think about user behavior, right? Where would they be playing this game? How would they be playing this game? Who would they be playing this game with, right? As part of your initial brainstorming for your product. And I think more importantly, is to pass this initial test of, the friend sharing test, right? Or word of mouth test. Like, why would your initial users who are playing this game want to share this game with other people, right? Or want to talk, or don't want to play this game with other people? I think we've seen the success of Fortnite and Roblox being, online playgrounds where people are there, or your friends are there, and therefore you are there as well. So we see these social mechanics being very successful. And actually, that's, to be honest, the core of what we stand for as a company, right? So Mixi is a social networking service. I mean, we are part of a Mixi group of companies, but the entertainment brand behind it is actually called X Flag. As you can see, the barbecue, BBQ, that's listed and blazoned on the logo here, it literally means barbecue. And the way of how we do things is essentially trying to bring in like battlefield, thrilling, high adrenaline entertainment that brings friends and family close together. I would really focus on the friends and family portion because that's our key social push, right? We look at friends and family as the only social graph that we're interested in. So that differentiates us from all our competitors in the space, because when we look at social, we think about friends and family as the number one primary target audience. So as I mentioned to you, barbecue as part of our logo is very key to us, and literally means, trying to recreate a similar like communication structure that you would have in a barbecue, right? A barbecue is high energy, high tension, friends and family focus. You think about people giving high fives to each other, or perhaps like, cheersing on their beers. And we want to recreate that with games. So we always ask ourselves, what is the barbecue test here? Right? And the barbecue test is very simple. It's like, would this game become a communication tool between your immediate friends and family when they're playing this game together face to face, right? So that's kind of what and how we approach the games. And of course, with this new age of Corona, that's kind of shifted a bit, but it has not changed. It shifted in terms of how we approach face to face. Right, so playing face to face in the same space might be a little bit more challenging now. But when you're playing apart together, and I believe that was a campaign that was being run before, it actually does facilitate. It doesn't change much because we're always talking about playing with people that you already know, which is that social graph. So moving on to the next part, on extending our success into as many different categories as possible, we do this via this method called vertical integration. And a lot of different game companies have the approach. They call it 360 media mix strategy, but for us, we call it vertical integration. And what we do very simply is to make sure that every single add-on piece to your core game piece are all integrated into the same integrated together into the core experience, right? So instead of just saying breaking it up into separate companies, such as having an anime company work with your product, or perhaps have a merchandising company deal or partner with a merchandising company that will work with a business, we own the entire piece. We do everything ourselves so that we can facilitate communication across all the various units. And to kind of share a little bit on what that actually means, we did a movie for the Monster Strike Games business. So we have a spin-off of some key characters within the game that kind of focuses on some unique characters that people love and enjoy, and we try to create more backstory for each of these characters, not only just in the game but through other media formats. We also do events. We have a flagship event called X-Select Park, which unfortunately we are unable to have this year, but we're having it online. But X-Select Park in the last 3 years have been incredibly successful for us. We have more than 40,000 participants come in. This is the same location where we had Tokyo Game Show, where Tokyo Game Show is held every year. And it's just us. We'll take up to 6 to 8 halls, and every single one of these halls is just for our company's activations. And it's a friends and family event, right? So it's not only just for gamers, but it's also for non-gamers who are there to hang out, not only with friends who play the game, but also with their family, right? And their kids activations, you can see in the bottom panel, there are activations for kids to kind of hang around and play as well. On the bottom right, we have an esports Grand Prix that happens along with like celebrity performances, as you can see on the top left hand corner, right? So it's a huge media affair, right? And obviously, for the next part for goods, these are I can talk about the merchandising business or e-commerce business doing various goods. But one thing that I really have to give kudos to our team for is to have as many different touch points of the brand. And this is our debit/credit card that we're working with Visa on. Or Visa with. And these are all like co-branded cards with our characters on it. And I think this is one very interesting way to kind of increase touch points with users who are monetizing with the game, as well as people who are beginning to understand the game, right? So that's our merchandising business. For esports, as I mentioned to you just now, we do have a Grand Prix that we hold every year, and we are one of the first few companies in Japan to provide a large prize pool every year for this, and we are huge evangelists of trying to create Monster Strike as the next esports, create as the forefront of the next esports main title for everyone to play in Japan. For anime, we're also one of the first few companies in Japan to create anime and distribute on YouTube for free. So a lot of animation usually goes through the television, basic, very traditional television channels. But for us, we decided to go through increased outreach. So we saw this as a marketing cost on our side, and we provide up to like multiple seasons. So now I believe we're now in season 3 of the Monster Strike animation. You can just search on YouTube Monster Strike animation, and you should be able to watch all the episodes with subtitles on it. I believe it's also subtitled in 17 different languages, so you should be able to find your selected language on YouTube. So that kind of showcases how we sync everything together. And I think more importantly, one thing that we do very well is that we ensure that as we own all these different units and we operate all these different units internally, we're able to communicate very effectively within interdepartmentally, and to be able to have, let's say, activations that touches all across the various categories. So perhaps one key question to ask your publisher, if you're a developer, is to ask yourself, how does your publishing partner perform in these categories on not only just the online user acquisition segment, but also on the offline segment in the markets in which they're strong at. If you do everything right, this is kind of like the end result. And I'd like to share with you, this video is one of my favorite videos of a new character evolution. And we did this character release a few years ago during our X-Select Park event. And the fan response is phenomenal. Let me just show it to you. Yeah, Yeah, so I hope that was insightful with regards to the activations that we do. Let me just make sure that I go back to the next slide. So yeah, so to kind of share a little bit about the key learnings on how we package everything, it's like, ask yourself, like, what does your game or business unit want to do collectively? And I think that's going to be critical, right? To see how all the pieces fit together and what's the long-term goal that you want to achieve, right? And also, to kind of tie all these pieces together, what is your key purpose? Like for XFlag, our purpose is very clear, that we want to create the next barbecue moments, right? To bring friends and family closer together through our games or entertainment products, right? And everyone within the company, within the various divisions of our games division, are very, very clear that is what we need to do for every new product or new existing product that we have in the market. And so more importantly, out of all the units that I've shared with you just now, strategy is also about choosing what not to do, right? There's some things that are appropriate for your game. There's some things that are not appropriate for your game. I would definitely say do not try to replicate like piece by piece of what I've shared with you today, but rather think about what is essential that will help push your overall purpose. Right. So I think if there's anything that there are key learnings, at least for this, is to ask yourself about what you decide not to do so that you can actually focus and refine the game that you want to make, or perhaps the game that you want to pitch. Right. On the marketing side of things, I'll move a little bit quicker now because it's pretty easy, much easier to understand. The same way how we do live operations for games where we have different cadences, we do the same thing for marketing as well. And when we do marketing, we try to think out of the box, right? So instead of just looking at how we do in-game marketing, we separate into brand-based marketing, as well as, I'd say, like the overall in-game character marketing. Right, so there's a game, new game features, new characters, as well as the overall brand marketing, and you try to balance it out. One important thing that we think about as well when we look at marketing is that we ask ourselves, what is the end goal of our marketing activation? And for us, it's the same thing. How do we create barbecue experiences through our marketing channels, right? And our goal for marketing is like, how do you create conversation topics between friends through this marketing activation, right? One marketing activation that I really like is when we partner up with Baskin Robbins, a relatively famous ice cream chain in Japan. And instead of saying, hey, you know what, a typical game company will probably say, hey, if you play in-game, if you play Monster Strike in-game and you clear a stage, you'll get a coupon that you can perhaps redeem the ice cream in offline, I would say, like stores. But for us, what we decided to do is that we wanted to make sure that you bring a friend. So when you have to clear a stage with a friend, and you have to bring that same friend with you to the ice cream stand to be able to retrieve the ice cream. So it becomes like a conversation topic, so that you encourage your friend to kind of play the game with you and to perhaps go with you to collect the ice cream. Right. So that's really more about think about marketing beyond just trying to get new users, but how do you facilitate conversation, right? To that end, we also partner with like boy idol groups, like boy bands within Japan with Monster Strike. We do tons of collaborations with IPs that perhaps some of you are familiar with in your side of the world. And the idea is to make sure that every single, I would say, like collaboration is relevant to our audiences, and we give what users in Monster Strike want. Right. So key learnings to this is to think about the user journey for your marketing campaign. So not only do you have to think about user journey for your game experience, you think about core loops, you think about I would say like what is the in-game and out-game for your game experience, but think about how you can think about the user journey for your marketing as well. What is the core experience that you want to give for your marketing campaign beyond just A/B testing, user acquisition campaigns on digital, right? Also ensure that you don't have a one-size-fits-all marketing strategy. So, test and play around with what may be useful for the game, and ensure that the message is appropriate for your medium and target audience. And last but not least, ask yourself what your Kpi objectives are, and does it meet your current product needs, right? So for us, we ask ourselves, is this a DAU-focused or a multiplayer-focused marketing campaign? Is this an ARPU-focused campaign? Are we going to focus more on online or offline presence for our KPIs? Ask yourself these questions and try to answer them before you go into your campaign. So if I would wrap up today's session, I would say if there's any one takeaway from this 30 minutes of conversations, perhaps ask yourself, what is your key strategic concept? And I think beyond just what's the strategic concept of the game, ask yourself, what is the strategic concept of the studio? Or you as a publisher, what is your overall your publisher strategic concept? And for us, it's very clear. And every time when I do a presentation, or perhaps when I share on a seminar, I always make sure that I talk about the barbecue aspect of it, because it's what we stand for and what we aim for every single one of our products to actually bring to the table. Yeah, with that, I end my presentation. I really hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Langer. This was a great talk, and it's very interesting to listen to how does it work for you on your local market, because sometimes here like strategies and the ways people work with games are a little bit different. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
So we have many thanks coming to you from the lectures chat on WN Hub platform, and this is amazing. And we also have a very interesting question saying, why did you drop the other markets such as United States and Europe to focus just on Japan? What was the reason for that? Can you comment what didn't work?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were in the US market, it was 7 years ago. So I would say that 6 to 7 years ago, when we started thinking about global. So when the product was released, for the first 2 years in Japan, it was doing great. And then immediately we said we need to expand this into other markets. There were multiple factors. One being perhaps being a timing issue, because the monetization model within our game was very gacha focused. So we were very concerned that gacha may not actually resonate as well in overseas markets versus the Japan market, which is relatively more mature, has a longer history of users actually paying for digital products. online. So there was a timing issue as well. We thought that the markets were not really warm to monetization, the same monetization methods in perhaps the Asian markets are familiar with. That was one issue. But I think fundamentally it was really all about product market fit. And if there's anything also to kind of learn from our failure in not being able to expand outside of Japan for this particular product, is that when we made the product, it was actually intended only for the Japanese market. And only when we saw this incredible success that we decided to scale. But the product was not meant to scale beyond Japan. So from a back-end standpoint, and how the game was built, there was no in-app localization functionality. The games were not made to kind of localize for individual markets. So we had multiple builds for different markets when we started out, and it became too cost prohibitive to run an operation of over 150 people. So we were 150 people looking at more than 5-6 different builds of the game. And obviously there were key issues to that. But from a product market fit standpoint, the game, when we started developing this game, we did not intend for it to scale. So one of the key learnings that we had from that is that all games that we are making, even today, that we're making now, are always aimed towards scaling outside of Japan and scaling for global markets. So I really hope that you guys can keep a lookout for these titles, because we have some really amazing titles that are in the pipeline that will be able to share the barbecue concept, and they're all meant to be for global from the outset. So hopefully, we have learned our lesson well from our failures back then, and we'll be able to launch in global moving forward. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Langer, for this very full and understandable answer.